Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, staring out at the endless black of space through the main viewing screen of the Un's Vengeance. The ship was 3 days into what should have been a routine patrol mission along the outer edge of human space. Nothing but empty void and distant stars, as far as anyone could see. Jake rubbed his tired eyes and checked the time display. Another 6 hours until his shift ended. The Vengeance was a good ship, with a solid crew, but patrol duty was boring work. They had been scanning for pirates or alien scouts for weeks without finding anything more exciting than space debris. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange on the long-range sensors," called out Communications Officer Lisa Torres from her station. Her voice carried a note of confusion that made Jake sit up straighter in his chair. "What kind of strange?" Torres asked, turning to face her workstation. Lisa was one of his best officers, and she did not get confused easily. Lisa frowned at her displays, adjusting controls and running the signal through different filters. "It's definitely artificial, sir. Some kind of transmission, but it's not. Like anything in our databases, the signal pattern is completely unknown." Chief Engineer Ryan Blake looked up from his own console where he had been monitoring the ship's power systems. "Want me to take a look at it, Captain?" "I might be able to clean up the signal or figure out what kind of technology is sending it." Jake nodded. "Do it, Ryan. Let's see what we're dealing with." Ryan moved over to Lisa's station and began working with the communication equipment. His fingers danced across the controls as he applied various decoding programs to the mysterious signal. After several minutes of work, his expression grew more serious. "This is definitely alien, Captain," Ryan said quietly. "The encryption is unlike anything we've ever seen, but I think I can break it down. Give me another few minutes." The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Jake felt his pulse quicken slightly. First contact with a new alien species was always a big deal, though most of the time it turned out to be traders or explorers just passing through human space. "Got it," Ryan announced suddenly. "I'm putting it through the main speakers now." A voice filled the bridge, speaking in a language none of them had ever heard before. The tone was desperate, filled with fear and pain. Even without understanding the words, everyone could hear the raw emotion in the alien's voice. "Computer, run Universal Translation Protocol," Jake ordered. The ship's advanced translation system analyzed the alien speech patterns and began converting the message into English. What they heard next made everyone on the bridge go cold. "Please, if anyone can hear this message, we need help. My name is Keller, of the Kalari people. Our world is dying. The Vorthok have come to our system, and they are destroying everything. Our cities burn, our people are taken as slaves. We've tried to fight, but we are not warriors. We are farmers and builders and teachers." The alien's voice broke with emotion, before continuing. "We have heard stories from other worlds about the Deathworlders. The humans from the planet called Earth. They say you are the only species crazy enough to fight when others would run. They say you protect those who cannot protect themselves. Please, if this message reaches you, help us. We are located in the Kepler 442 system. We do not have much time left." The message repeated itself twice more before cutting to static. The bridge remained silent for a long moment as everyone processed what they had just heard. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster was the first to speak. "Captain, did that alien just ask us for help because we're supposed to be crazy?" Jake almost smiled despite the serious situation. "It seems like our reputation precedes us, Foster." "Torres, how old is this transmission?" Lisa checked her instruments. "Based on the signal degradation and distance calculations, I'd say it was sent about 4 days ago, sir. The Kepler 442 system is roughly 2 days' travel from our current position at maximum speed." 2 days, Jake repeated thoughtfully. "Ryan, what do you know about this Vorthok species they mentioned?" Ryan shook his head. "Never heard of them, Captain? But if they're attacking peaceful aliens and taking slaves, they don't sound like the kind of neighbors we want in this part of the galaxy." Chief Medical Officer Dan Clark spoke up from his station near the back of the bridge. "Captain, I've been monitoring galactic news feeds during our patrol. There have been reports of several agricultural worlds going silent over the past few months. No distress calls, no explanations. They just stopped all communication. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. You think this Vorthok Empire is responsible for those disappearances? It's possible, sir, Dan replied. If they're systematically attacking peaceful species, it would explain the pattern. Jake stood up and began pacing behind his command chair. His orders were clear: maintain patrol route, investigate any immediate threats to human space, and report back to Fleet Command in 2 weeks. Officially, what they had just heard was not his problem. The Kaleri were not human allies, and the system was outside of Earth's sphere of influence. But Jake had not joined the Earth Defense Force to ignore people who needed help. None of his crew had. They were explorers and protectors, not politicians sitting safely behind desks. Foster, what's our current tactical status? Jake asked. Amy checked her displays. All weapon systems are fully operational, Captain. Shields are at maximum efficiency, carrying a full load of supplies and ammunition. Jake nodded and looked around at his crew. These were good people who had signed up to explore the galaxy and keep humanity safe. But they had also sworn to uphold Earth's values, and those values included helping others when possible. Torres, plot a course for the Kepler 442 system, Jake commanded. Maximum speed. Sir? Lisa looked surprised. That will take us way off our patrol route. Fleet Command expects us to check in from the Vega system in 5 days. Jake smiled grimly. Then we better make this quick. We've got aliens to save, and apparently a reputation to live up to. The UN's vengeance dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the main screen as the ship's sensors began scanning the area. What they found made his blood run cold. Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the system, reported Lisa Torres from her communications station. Multiple large ships. Definitely not Kalari design. Put it on the main screen, Jake ordered. The image that appeared before them was like something from a nightmare. The Kalari homeworld, which should have been a beautiful blue and green planet, was covered in smoke and fire. Massive alien ships hung in orbit like dark metal vultures, their weapons still firing down at the surface below. My God, whispered Amy Foster. How many ships are there? Ryan Blake worked frantically at his console, trying to get accurate readings. I count at least 30 major vessels, Captain. Each one is twice the size of our ship, and there are hundreds of smaller craft moving between the surface and the main fleet. Jake clenched his fists as he watched the destruction. Torres, are you picking up any Kalari transmissions? Lisa shook her head sadly. Very few, sir. Most of their communication networks appear to have been destroyed. I'm getting some scattered signals from underground shelters, but they're getting weaker. Captain, called out Intelligence Officer Kate Hudson from her station. I'm intercepting. Vorthok Communications? The Universal Translator is working on their language now. Jake turned to face her. What are they saying? Kate's face grew pale as she listened to the alien voices. They're coordinating slave collection operations, sir. We're talking about how many Kalari they've captured and where to send them for processing. Processing? Jake asked, though he was afraid he already knew the answer. What I can understand, they break down the prisoners mentally and physically. They use some kind of technology to make them completely obedient. The Kalari aren't just being enslaved, Captain. They're being turned into living tools. Chief Medical Officer Dan Clark stepped forward. Captain, I need to examine some of these transmissions. If the Vorthok have technology that can alter minds, we need to understand how it works. Jake nodded grimly. Do it. Hudson, keep monitoring their communications. I want to know everything about their operations. As the crew worked, more horrible details emerged. The Vorthok Empire had been doing this for hundreds of years. They would arrive at a peaceful world, destroy all resistance, and then systematically break the surviving population. The broken aliens were then used as workers. Soldiers, or even worse, Captain Kate said quietly. I'm learning more about their philosophy. The Vorthok believe that only the strongest species deserve to survive. They see conquest and domination as natural laws. Any species that can't defend itself is considered weak and deserving of slavery. How many worlds have they conquered? Jake asked. Kate checked her data. Based on their communications, I'd estimate at least 50 different species have been completely subjugated. Some of them were advanced civilizations with billions of people. Ryan looked up from his engineering station. Captain, I'm analyzing their ship designs. These aren't just warships. They're floating factories designed to strip entire planets of resources. They take everything. People, materials, even the atmosphere if it's useful to them. Jake felt sick. This wasn't just war or even conquest. This was systematic destruction of entire civilizations. Sir, Lisa called out urgently. I'm picking up a new transmission. It's coming from the planet's surface. Put it through, Jake ordered. A weak, frightened voice filled the bridge. It was speaking in the same language as the original distress call, but the universal translator quickly converted it to English. This is Elder Zeftel of the Kalari Council. If any ships are receiving this transmission, please stay away. The Vorthok have set traps throughout the system. They know other species might come to help us, and they are waiting. Save yourselves. Do not let them do to your people what they have done to ours. The transmission cut to static, then resumed. With a different voice. This one was deeper, more threatening, and definitely not Kalari. Attention, unknown vessel, the new voice said, in heavily accented English. I am War Commander Dexkar of the Vorthok Empire. You are in claimed territory. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Your ship will be added to our fleet, and your crew will join our workforce. Jake smiled coldly. Torres, open a channel. Channel open, Captain. War Commander Dexkar, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Nations ship Vengeance. I've got a message for you and your empire. Jake's voice was calm, but deadly serious. You picked the wrong species to threaten. Humans don't surrender. And we don't run from bullies. There was a moment of silence before the X-Car responded. Humans. You are the Deathworlders we have heard rumors about. Interesting. Your reputation suggests you are violent and unpredictable. This should provide better entertainment than the weak Kalari. You want to see violent and unpredictable? Jake asked. Keep hurting innocent people, and you'll get a demonstration. Dexkar laughed, a sound like metal grinding against metal. One small ship against my entire fleet? Your species may be warriors, but you are not miracle workers. You will make fine additions to our slave ranks. We'll see about that, Jake replied. Torres, close the channel. Jake turned to face his crew. Every person on the bridge was looking at him with determination and trust. They knew the odds were impossible, but they also knew they couldn't abandon the Kalari. All right, people, Jake said. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and probably outmatched. The enemy has better ships, more weapons, and centuries of experience. Conquering peaceful worlds? Any suggestions? Amy Foster spoke up first. Captain, they're used to fighting species that follow rules and fight honorably. They've never faced humans before. What are you thinking, Foster? I'm thinking we show them what happens when someone threatens innocence in front of a bunch of crazy Deathworlders from Earth. Jake grinned. Now you're talking. Ryan, how long? Until we can get close enough to their fleet? 30 minutes at current speed, Captain? Shh. Hudson, I want you to keep monitoring their communications. The moment they start moving against us, I want to know about it. Clark. Prepare the medical bay for possible casualties, both human and alien. Jake sat back down in his command chair and stared at the enemy fleet on the main screen. 30 massive warships against one human exploration vessel. The Vorthok probably thought this would be easy. They were about to learn that humans didn't become the dominant species on a death world by giving up when the odds looked bad. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the briefing room with his senior officers gathered around the holographic display table. The image showed the Vorthok fleet formation and the burning Cagliari homeworld below. The odds were terrible, but Jake had learned something important during his years in the Earth Defense Force. Humans were at their most dangerous when things looked hopeless. All right, people, here's what we're dealing with, Jake began, pointing at the enemy's ships. 30 heavy warships, hundreds of smaller craft, and an enemy that's used to winning through pure intimidation. The good news is, they've never fought humans before. Sergeant Tony Martinez, the ship's head of security, studied the display carefully. Captain, their formation is designed to look impressive, not to fight efficiently. They're spread out like they're at a parade, not expecting real resistance. Amy Foster nodded in agreement. They've been conquering peaceful species for so long, they've gotten sloppy. Look at their patrol patterns. Those smaller ships are moving in predictable routes. Jake smiled grimly. That's exactly what I was thinking. Ryan, what can you tell me about their ship designs? Chief Engineer Ryan Blake manipulated the hologram to zoom in on individual Vorthok vessels. Their ships are built for intimidation and resource processing, not for fighting agile opponents. Heavy armor, powerful weapons, but they're slow and clumsy. Our ship is smaller, but we can run circles around them. What about their weapons? Asked Dan Clark. Powerful, but primitive, Ryan replied. They rely on brute force instead of precision. Their energy beams are designed to destroy cities and break planetary defenses, not to hit fast-moving targets in space combat. Intelligence. Officer Kate Hudson looked up from her datapad. Captain, I've been analyzing their communications. The Vorthok commanders are arguing among themselves about how to handle us. Some want to capture our ship intact to study human technology. Others want to destroy us immediately, as an example. Good, Jake said. Confusion in the enemy ranks is always helpful. What else have you learned, their war commander? Dexcar is overconfident, Kate continued. He's treating this like a game. He's actually excited about fighting humans because he thinks it will be more entertaining than conquering the colliery. Tony Martinez cracked his knuckles. And let's give him some entertainment he'll never forget. Captain, I have an idea that might help even the odds. Jake gestured for him to continue. The Vorthok are used to enemies who follow galactic combat protocols, Tony explained. They probably expect us to challenge them to formal battle, exchange threats, maybe negotiate terms, but humans don't fight like that, especially when innocents are at stake. What are you suggesting, Sergeant? Tony's smile was cold and dangerous. We hit them fast, hard, and where they don't expect it. While they're still trying to figure out what we're doing, we rescue as many colliery as possible and make them pay. For every life they've taken, Amy Foster leaned forward eagerly. A guerrilla operation. Hit and run tactics. Make them chase us while we pick apart their formation. Exactly, Tony nodded. We use our speed and maneuverability. Strike their weakest ships first. Rescue prisoners. Then disappear before their heavy hitters can respond. Jake felt the familiar rush of adrenaline that came with a desperate plan that just might work. Ryan, can our ship handle that kind of stress? Constant high-speed maneuvers while under fire. The Vengeance was built for exploration and patrol duty, but she's tougher than she looks, Ryan assured him. I can push the engines beyond their normal limits for short periods. It will be fast enough to avoid their main weapons. What about rescuing the Kalari? Don asked. We can't just beam them up from the surface with all those enemy ships in orbit. Kate Hudson had been quietly working on her tablet during the discussion. Captain, I might have a solution for that. I've been monitoring Vorthok communications. About their prisoner processing operations, they're not keeping all the Kalaria on the planet. Many have been moved to their smaller ships for transport to other systems. Transport ships, Jake mused. Probably not as heavily armed as the main battleships. Exactly, sir. And they're positioned on the outer edge of the fleet formation. If we could hit those ships first, we could rescue hundreds of Kalari before the main fleet could respond. Tony nodded approvingly. Those transport ships would be perfect targets. Light defenses, valuable cargo, and destroying them would send a message to the entire Vorthok fleet. Jake walked around the holographic display, studying the enemy formation from different angles. The plan was risky, but it played to human strengths. Earth's history was full of smaller forces defeating larger ones through superior tactics and sheer determination. All right, here's what we're going to do, Jake announced. We're going to show the Vorthok why humans earned the nickname Deathworlders. Tony, I want you to prepare boarding teams. We're going to rescue those prisoners the hard way. How hard? Tony asked with a grin. We're going to board their ships while they're still fighting us. The room fell silent for a moment as everyone processed the audacity of the plan. Amy Foster was the first to speak. Captain, That's completely insane. Good, Jake replied. Insane is what we do best. The Vorthok are expecting us to fight like civilized galactic citizens. Instead, we're going to fight like humans, defending our friends. Ryan began running calculations on his tablet. I can modify our transporters to punch through their shields during combat. It won't be pretty, but it should work for short-range operations. Perfect. Kate, I need you to identify which ships have the most prisoners. We'll hit those first. Kate nodded. Already working on it, sir. I've identified 3 transport vessels with heavy Clary populations. Dan Clark looked concerned. Captain, if we're boarding enemy ships during combat, we're going to have casualties, both human and alien. Jake's expression grew serious. Doctor, the Kalari are already suffering casualties. They're being tortured, broken, and turned into slaves. We might lose people trying to save them, but we'll definitely lose them if we do nothing. The medical officer nodded grimly. Understood. Sir, I'll prepare emergency medical teams for combat rescues. Jake looked around the room at his officers. These were good people who had joined the Earth Defense Force to explore the galaxy and protect humanity. Now they were about to risk their lives for aliens they had never met, simply because it was the right thing to do. Any questions? Jake asked. Tony Martinez raised his hand. Just one, Captain. When do we start? Jake smiled. Right now. Battle. Stations. Everyone. Let's show the galaxy what happens when you mess with the friends of Deathworlders. As his officers filed out of the briefing room to prepare for the impossible mission, Jake took one last look at the tactical display. 30 enemy warships against 1 human exploration vessel. The Vorthok probably thought they had already won. They were about to discover that humans had a different definition of victory. It wasn't about superior numbers or bigger weapons. It was about never giving up when people needed help. The Un's vengeance streaked through space toward the first Vorthok transport ship. Its engines pushed far beyond normal limits. Captain Jake Morrison gripped his command chair as enemy weapons fire lit up the darkness around them. The plan was working better than anyone had dared hope. Direct hit on transport vessel number 2, reported Amy Foster from the tactical station. Their shields are down, and they're venting atmosphere. Tony, get your boarding teams ready, Jake ordered. Ryan, can you punch through their hull with the transporters? Already locked on, Captain, Ryan Blake replied from his engineering station. Transporting boarding teams now? On the main screen, Jake watched as explosions erupted along the side of the Vorthok transport. Sergeant Tony Martinez and his security teams were fighting their way through the enemy ship, rescuing Kalari prisoners while the space battle raged around them. Captain, I'm getting reports from the other rescued transports, called out Kate Hudson. The Kalari prisoners are in bad shape, but many of them are still able to communicate. They're telling us about other species being held on different ships. Jake felt his heart skip a beat. Other species? Da-da-da. Yes, sir. The Vorthok have prisoners from at least 6 different alien races scattered throughout their fleet. Some have been captives for years. Lisa Torres looked up from her communications console with excitement in her eyes. Captain, you need to hear this. I'm picking up transmissions from outside the system. Multiple ships approaching at high speed. Vorthok reinforcements. Jake asked, preparing for the worst. No, sir. These are ships from different alien species. The Nethies, the Chorus, even some I don't recognize. They're all heading this way. On the main screen, new contacts began appearing at the edge of the system. Ships of various designs and sizes, all moving toward the battle. Jake watched in amazement as more and more vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel. How many ships are we talking about, Torres? At least 50, sir, and more arriving every minute. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the lead ship. Put it through. A new voice filled the bridge, speaking in careful but clear English. Human vessel vengeance. This is Commander Zaleth of the Nethies Crystalline Fleet. We have monitored your battle against the Vorthok oppressors. We request permission to join your fight. Jake blinked in surprise. Commander Zelth, this is Captain Morrison. Permission granted, but I have to ask, why are you here? Captain Morrison, news of your attack on the Vorthok fleet has spread throughout this sector of the galaxy. For too long, We have watched the Vorthok destroy peaceful worlds while we did nothing. Your actions have shown us that resistance is possible. Another voice joined the conversation. Human Captain, this is Hive Speaker Kethra of the Chorus Collective. Our people were conquered by the Vorthok 50 years ago. We thought we were broken forever, but your rescue operations have given us hope. We have come to reclaim our stolen children.
Wow.
Jake felt a surge of emotion. The human rescue mission had inspired other species to finally fight back against their oppressors. All allied vessels. This is Captain Morrison, Jake announced over the open channel. Welcome to the fight. Show the Vorthok what happens. When the galaxy decides to work together, the battle transformed from a desperate rescue mission into something much larger. The newly arrived alien ships brought with them advanced technologies and tactics that the humans had never seen before. The Nethies used crystalline shield generators that could deflect Vorthok energy weapons. The Chorus employed hive mind coordination that allowed their ships to move as one unified force. Captain Ryan called out from his station, "The alien ships are sharing their technology with us. I'm getting data streams on shield harmonics, weapon modifications, and tactical coordination." Protocols. Engineer Specialist Carl Johnson would have been working frantically to keep the Vengeance's systems running during the intense battle, looked up with amazement. "Sir, these alien modifications are incredible. If we integrate their shield technology, with our whole design, we could withstand direct hits from the Vorthok main guns." "Do it," Jake ordered. "Make whatever modifications you need." The tide of battle began to turn. What had started as one human ship against 30 Vorthok vessels had become a coalition of dozens of species working together. The Vorthok fleet, which had seemed so overwhelming just hours before, was now outnumbered and outmatched. War Commander the Scar's voice crackled over the communications system. He was no longer confident and mocking. "This is impossible." How did so? Many species coordinate an attack so quickly? Kate Hudson smiled as she monitored the enemy communications. "Captain, the Vorthok commanders are panicking. They're receiving reports of uprisings on conquered worlds throughout their empire. The news of our rescue mission has inspired rebellions across dozens of systems. On the planet below, something even more remarkable was happening. Chief Medical Officer Dan Clark had been working with rescued Kalari to understand the Vorthok mind control technology. What he discovered changed everything. "Captain, I need to report something incredible," Dan announced over the comm system. "From the medical bay, the Vorthok neural conditioning can be reversed. I've been working with a Kalari elder named Zeftel, and we found a way to break the psychological programming." "Are you sure, Doctor?" "Positive, sir. It requires a combination of human psychological techniques and Kalari meditation practices, but it works. The enslaved populations throughout the Vorthok Empire could be freed." Jake felt a surge of hope. This wasn't just about winning one battle anymore. They'd found a way to undo centuries of oppression. Pilot Commander Beth Adams, who'd been coordinating with the alien pilots, reported more good news. "Captain, the other species are sharing their knowledge about Vorthok operations throughout the galaxy. We're building a complete map of their empire, including the locations of slave worlds and processing centers." "Excellent work, Adams. Coordinate. With all allied ships, I want rescue missions launched to every Vorthok facility we can reach." As the battle continued, something unprecedented was happening. Species that had been enemies or strangers were working together against a common threat. The Kalari provided detailed intelligence about Vorthok technology. The Nethies shared their advanced defensive systems. The Chorus used their natural coordination abilities to manage complex multi-ship operations. Captain Lisa Torres announced, "I'm receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command." Jake grimaced. "Put it through. To my ready room, I'll take it privately." Minutes later, Jake returned to the bridge with a grim expression. "Earth Command wants a full report on our unauthorized mission. They're concerned about diplomatic implications." Amy Foster shook her head. "Diplomatic implications? We're stopping genocide." "I know, Foster, and I told them exactly that." Jake's expression brightened. "I also told them that we've accidentally started the largest alliance in galactic history. They're sending reinforcements." The news spread quickly through the Allied fleet. was officially joining the fight against the Vorthok Empire. More importantly, the other species were formally proposing the creation of a permanent defensive alliance. Commander. Zaltha's voice came over the communication system again. Captain Morrison, on behalf of all free species in this sector, I propose the formation of the Galactic Defense Coalition. Will humanity accept a leadership role in this new alliance? Jake looked around his bridge at the crew that had started this incredible journey by simply answering a cry for help. They had gone from a routine patrol mission to commanding the largest military alliance in galactic history. Commander Zalth, on behalf of humanity, we accept. But we're not looking to lead an empire. We're here to make sure no species ever has to face oppression alone again. The bridge erupted in cheers from both human and alien voices over the communication channels. The galaxy had found its defenders, and they weren't interested in conquest or domination. They just wanted to help. The combined fleet of the Galactic Defense Coalition hung in space before the Vorthok homeworld like an avenging army. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Un's vengeance, watching the massive planet that had been the center of centuries of galactic oppression. Today, that would end. Fleet status report, Jake requested from his communications officer. Lisa Torres checked her displays before responding. 230 ships from 47 different species. Captain. The largest military force. In recorded galactic history, the journey to the Vorthok homeworld had taken 3 months of careful planning and coordination. The alliance had grown stronger with each liberated world, each freed species adding their ships and knowledge to the coalition. Now they faced the heart of the empire that had terrorized the galaxy for so long. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission. From the Vorthok homeworld, Kate Hudson announced from her intelligence station. It's War Commander Vexkar. Put him on screen, Jake ordered. The alien leader appeared on the main display. But he looked very different from the confident warlord they had first encountered at the Kaleri system. His armor was damaged, his eyes filled with desperate anger instead of cruel amusement. Human Morrison, Vexkar snarled. You have destroyed everything we've built over centuries. Dozens of our worlds have fallen to your rebellion. Our slave populations have been freed. You have ruined the natural order of the galaxy. Jake stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. The natural order isn't about the strong crushing the weak, Vexkar. It's about different species working together to build something better than any of them could create alone. Impossible, the Vorthok commander spat. Weakness will always bow to strength. Your alliance will crumble the moment you face real opposition. We've been facing real opposition for months, Jake replied. Every world you controlled, every species you enslaved, every person you broke. We freed them all, and they chose to stand with us, instead of returning to their old ways. Amy Foster spoke up from her tactical station. Captain Vorthok, defense platforms are powering up weapons. They're preparing to fire on the Coalition fleet. Jake nodded. All ships, this is Captain Morrison. Execute Operation Liberation.
There.
Massive Coalition fleet moved forward in perfect coordination. Human ships worked alongside Kaleri vessels that had been hastily armed for war. Anthe's crystalline cruisers provided shield coverage, while Chorus Hive ships coordinated the complex. Attack patterns. Species that had been enemies or strangers just months before now fought side by side. The battle for the Vorthok homeworld was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It wasn't just about military victory. Every shot fired was aimed at liberation, not destruction. Every boarding action was designed to free prisoners rather than claim territory. Commander Rodriguez led the final assault team toward the massive Vorthok command station orbiting their homeworld. The station was where the Empire's leadership had retreated, making their last stand behind layers of shields and armor. Boarding teams, this is Rodriguez, he announced over the comm system. Remember, we're here to end this war, not to become like them. Prisoners are to be treated with dignity. We're liberators, not conquerors. The human assault teams fought their way through the station's corridors, but they weren't alone. Freed slaves from dozens of species had volunteered to join the final attack. Kaleri, who had overcome their conditioning, fought alongside former Chorus slaves. Even some Vorthok, who had grown tired of their empire's brutality, joined the liberation forces. Deep in the command center, War Commander Thekskar made his final stand. He was surrounded by his most loyal officers, all of them armed and ready to fight to the death rather than surrender. "You cannot defeat us," Thekskar roared as Commander Rodriguez and his team entered the chamber. "We are the strongest species. In the galaxy, we've conquered worlds and broken civilizations." "No," said a quiet voice from behind the human soldiers. Elder Zeptile of the Kalari stepped forward, no longer the broken prisoner they had first rescued, but a leader who had found his strength again. "You are not strong. You never were. True strength comes from protecting others, not hurting them." Other freed slaves entered the chamber behind Zeptal. Representatives of every species the Vorthok had enslaved stood together, no longer afraid of their former masters. "This is how your empire ends," Rodriguez told Thekskar. "Not with violence or revenge, but with the choice to be better. Your people can join the coalition as equals, or they can face trial for their crimes. But the days of conquest and slavery are over." Thekskar looked around at the faces surrounding him. Human soldiers, who could have killed him but chose restraint. Former slaves who showed mercy to their oppressors. Species working together instead of fighting each other. For the first time in his life, the Vorthok commander began to understand what real strength looked like. The war ended not with a massive explosion or the destruction of a world, but with a simple surrender. The Vorthok Empire laid down its weapons and accepted the authority of the Galactic Defense Coalition. 6 months later, Captain Jake Morrison stood in the same briefing room where he had planned the impossible rescue mission that started everything. But now the room was filled with representatives from across the galaxy, all working together to build something new. "The rehabilitation programs are working better than we hoped," reported Dr. Dan Clark. 90% of the former Vorthok slaves have successfully overcome their conditioning. Many are choosing to remain with the coalition as free citizens. "What about the Vorthok themselves?" Jake asked. "Surprisingly, many of them are adapting well to the new system," Clark continued. "Without the pressure to constantly prove their strength through conquest, they're discovering they have talents for engineering and construction. Some of their former war commanders are now helping to rebuild the worlds they once destroyed." Elder Zeftal, now serving as the coalition's Minister of Rehabilitation, smiled. "Captain Morrison, when my people first sent that distress signal, we hoped only for rescue. We never imagined it would lead to the liberation of the entire galaxy." Jake looked out through the viewing port at the busy space around the coalition's new headquarters. Ships from dozens of species came and went, carrying supplies to rebuilding worlds, transporting former slaves back to their homelands, patrolling the galaxy to ensure that no new empire could rise to threaten the peace. "You know," Jake said thoughtfully, "when we first heard your distress call, I thought we were just going to help one species. I never imagined we'd end up changing everything." Commander Zaelth of the Nethes, now serving as the coalition's military coordinator, joined the conversation. "Captain, your species taught the galaxy an important lesson. When someone cries for help, the right response isn't to calculate the odds or worry about the cost. The right response is to help." Amy Foster, who had been promoted to admiral and now commanded an entire fleet of coalition ships, nodded in agreement. "The galaxy is a better place because humans decided that protecting others was more important than protecting ourselves." Jake smiled as he watched a group of young Kalari and human children playing together in the station's civilian area. Some of those children had been born in Vorthok slave camps. Others were the children of former enemies who now worked side by side. "The best part," Jake said, "is that this is just the beginning. We've proven that different species can work together. Now we get to see what we can build when we're not fighting wars or conquering each other." The Un's Vengeance, now the flagship of the coalition fleet, drifted peacefully among the other vessels. Its mission log would forever record the day when a routine patrol became the spark that freed an entire galaxy. The humans had answered a cry for help. And in doing so, they had shown the universe that the strongest species wasn't the one that conquered others, but the one that lifted others up.